This video was selected for release this month by my doll faces and pop tarts over on Patreon. Much love to you as always. Hello gummy bears, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. How do you think like a practitioner of chaos magic? I want this video to act as a little bit of an initiation into the mindsets and the philosophies around chaos magic, so you can utilize those if you want to, or even just figure out where you fall on the scale between someone who is a total non-chaote in their magical practice and someone who's absolutely swimming in chaos magic waters, very deep, right in the middle of the occultic Atlantic, as it were. Just to let you know, it is a framework. It's not one size fits all. You can take some of the principles, leave some of the principles, and not every chaote that watches this is going to agree with me, and that is absolutely fine. I do not mind that. I'm talking about my experience based on many years of doing reading and doing practical experiments and figuring out what the principles of chaos and the idea of the framework means for me, how I've applied it, how I've experimented with it, and how I really, really love this beautiful, radical little approach to the magic that you're doing, so that it caters to you and so that it does not encourage dogma, but rather encourages you to go out there and play. And I do think this can be very helpful for just loosening up your magical mindset. Whether or not you actually want to adopt the moniker of chaos magician or chaos witch, I don't think that really matters so much. I've called myself a chaos witch for a very long time, but again, I don't think that matters. I think what's more important is that I'm just going to give you some notion of the steps towards getting into the mindset to do magic like a chaote, to think outside the magical box. So here are some ideas, here are some things that might help you to understand, and let me know down in the comments, what are you thinking as we go through this video? If you're already a chaote and you can resonate with this, or if you don't, let me know. And if you did not realize you were a chaos practitioner until you watch this video, let me know, because that can sometimes happen with my videos. I sometimes have people saying, I think I am a chaote already, or damn, that's what I've been doing for years, or you know what, Kellyanne, I never knew there was a term for shadow work, but I realize I've been doing it for ages, or I never knew that I was doing inner child healing. So let me know down below if you're accidentally a chaos witch. That would be amazing. Okay, all right, let's do this, darlings. Here are some of the key differences between a witch and a chaos witch. Again, not being prescriptive, not being one size fits all the caveats all the time, have all the caveats, enjoy your caveat soup, darling. But these are a few ways in which there are differences, right? So a witch might ask themselves from time to time, is this allowed? Is this part of the framework that I'm supposed to be working in? Is this correct, right? A chaos witch, a chaos practitioner, is more likely to ask themselves, is this going to work? Is this going to make me feel more free or more empowered? Is this something that is actually going to have a useful function with whatever it is that I'm trying to achieve? So there is much less focus placed on what is allowed, what is correct, what is permitted, and there is far more focus placed on what is going to be fun, what is going to be effective, what is going to be high octane, what is going to fucking work. Here's another example, okay? A witch might be quite set in their beliefs, and if they are not quite sure what they believe, they are on a mission to figure out what it is that they truly believe and what they think is real for them in their magical practice. A chaos practitioner is more likely to think of belief as a powerful tool that can be warped, manipulated, played with, changed as appropriate for the working that they are doing. A witch might be somewhat disturbed by the idea that beliefs could be pliable dependent upon need, whereas a chaos practitioner is likely to be more excited by that because they embrace the notion that they are actually paradoxical. So even they sort of realize that in all areas of their life, they might believe different things at different times, depending on what part of themselves is in the driver's seat. So it doesn't really seem like that much of a stretch for them to apply that use of belief as a tool to their magical practice. So that's a big difference between the witch in a lot of cases and then the chaos witch or the chaos practitioner, is this idea that belief goes from being sacred, immovable, and something that we want to pin down and we want to define, to something that is a tool, an instrument, a Play-Doh, something that we can wrap around something to make it more effective, more exciting, more useful. But we can actually then strip it away, we can pack it down, we can burn it down, we can change it.
But Random, I can do anything I like. I'm eccentric.
To many witches, faith is proof of alignment, and it is a show of devotion and adherence to whatever is being aligned with. To a chaos practitioner, faith is something to be installed and then uninstalled and then reinstalled as necessary. It is something to be tested, and it is something that is likely to mutate, and that is much more comfortable for the chaos practitioner than it usually is for lots of other kinds of witches. Okay, here's another way in which you might notice a difference in mindset. Lots of witches will be interested in trying to make things as permanent or as long-term as possible. And that will be their relationships with deities, their altar spaces, the very sort of shape of their theological framework in general, right? The notion of how many years they've been working with specific practices or using specific labels. A chaos practitioner, a lot of the time, and this is not true for all of us, but a chaos practitioner usually is quite interested in jumping around from thing to thing. And they do not actually see that as something that is problematic or that needs to be changed in some way. It's actually part of the fruit that comes from being a chaos practitioner. The chaos practitioner is looking for something that provokes a charge in their spiritual path, and they're looking for sparks, they're looking for electricity. And if that electricity happens to be something that is very sort of sudden, spontaneous, and ultimately impermanent, then that doesn't mean that it was less useful, and it doesn't mean that there's a problem with that. Whereas other types of witches may sometimes hold more the mindset that something was a flash in the pan, that it didn't necessarily hold meaning, it was a failed experiment, and let's move on and find what's really going to do the business, right? Chaos practitioners strive to think less like that and more in terms of like, anywhere where I can get a little bit of something is fine, even if it was just for a day. Very much in keeping with the last point that I just made, I also think it's important to note that you'll meet a lot of different types of witches that are interested in protecting their spiritual identity, right? They want to really sort of like secure their spiritual identity, and they may put more stock in it or more focus on it, whereas a chaos practitioner may enjoy the feeling of it mutating. They will be interested in the fact that it is mutating, or they will very consciously and purposefully mutate it because the sort of the usefulness of it has been, you know, dried out basically. So it's time to go on to something else. It's time to get into a different paradigm, or it's time to fuck with the belief structure that they had set up in some way. And that for many chaotic practitioners just simply won't be distressing. It will be something that is part and parcel. So there isn't this notion that like it's really a massive deal to move on from a specific label, or to feel that actually, oh wow, that paradigm is kind of coming to a natural end in my relationship with it, and now I feel like I'm something else, or I'm doing something else, or I'm choosing something else. So the idea that spiritual identity goes in the non-chaote paradigms from being quite important to in the chaote paradigm being something that is like, oh yeah, we can kind of like screw this up and wet it and make things out of it and pull it apart and throw it away, you know, and then bring it back, you know. It can have a renaissance at another time if we need it again. I do want to make mention though of the fact that something that is quite misunderstood about chaos practitioners is the idea that this sort of false idea that chaos practitioners don't take paradigms seriously when they're in them, right? So if they say, for example, I am working in the left-hand path and I'm doing this and that with this particular being, and I'm following this fucking grimoire, whatever, a chaos practitioner may go just as deeply into learning about that and practicing that as a non-chaos practitioner would. It's just that a chaos practitioner has a different fundamental relationship with it because they see it as a paradigm and not the one right way. And they will see it as something that actually fulfills a part of themselves, but it's not necessary for all of them as a complete practitioner to embrace it until the end of life. And it is certainly not considered a failure if it's not embraced until the end of life. That's just paradigm surfing, baby. That is just essentially being a paradigm pirate, going over the 7 seas of different frameworks and ideas, traditions and philosophies. And there is something adventurous about that. There is something spectacular about that. To other witches, there may be a much more sort of solid relationship with a path and with the dedication to that path and with the, you know, hard time done under that particular tradition or with that particular label. There can also be seen to be some kind of flippancy sometimes with chaotes, because they might adopt labels just to see how the fuck they feel and just do a little bit of a field experiment under a particular label. And that can definitely look flippant and be offensive to people who are working under that particular label or with that tradition. There is, of course, also the issue that I think happens sometimes in chaos spaces in the occult, whereby anything is up for grabs. Nothing is off the table, right? Closed practices, any of that. There can sometimes be a lesser concern for cultural appropriation. And like I said, you know, I'm not here to club all chaotes under one banner. I'm certainly not under that banner. I do have a concern about cultural appropriation. I do feel like certain things are not mine. But you have to witness that when it becomes less about moralizing and more about relativizing based on who you are and what you need, there is definitely a danger of things like cultural appropriation just being like flung right out of the window because, you know, let's not say anything is anyone's. Let's just say that we are careering through paradigms like Pac-Man and we're just eating up things. So that can sometimes be a mindset issue with some chaotes. Again, not all, certainly not with me. But I've definitely been in a few debates over the years. Okay, I've been online a long time and I've been around a reasonably long time now at this point. Yeah, I've had my debates. And, you know, it all got very fucking rumble in the jungle, all right?
Is it me? Am I the drama? I don't think I'm the drama. Maybe I am.
But I'm done with all that now. I'm done with that life. I just stick in my little corner of the internet, probably pissing off some chaotes once in a while who watch me and then bitch me out. But I care not. I care not, sir.
Have some fucking show me.
In a perspective that is less influenced by the chaos magic framework, you might find that there is quite a big concern about things having been wrong or having failed or having flopped, not risen in the oven, disappointment around that, and a feeling that feeds into a personal insecurity, right? Now, I'm not saying that chaos practitioners don't experience imposter syndrome around their witchcraft or they don't have insecurity, but I tend to find with chaotes that it is less so because essentially failures and flops and things that didn't rise in the oven, that's just all data. That is all data. It's something of interest. It's something to be noted. It's something to be messed around with next time. Now, a lot of witches that do not describe themselves as chaos practitioners, they don't believe in paradigm surfing. They do not believe in belief as a tool. They have their fucking beliefs and that's what they believe, right? A lot of those witches also will find that failures and flops and wondering whether or not something was wrong is not really going to bug them. They're not really going to be insecure about that. They are solid in their faith and what they're doing, and that's fine. I'm just saying that the chaos magic paradigm does, I think, have more dimensionality when it comes to being able to look at something and not suddenly take it as a personal sign that you're wrong or you're weak or you failed or you don't know what you're doing. Because I think in the chaos magic paradigm, in that framework, basically, that magical framework that you set up, everything is experimentation, everything is data, and there isn't really some sense overall that like, oh fuck, I'm fucking this up, I'm doing it wrong. So that's one reason I love the chaos magic framework, because it really helped me to get over this idea that I should be insecure if spells don't work or if things don't rise in the oven or if I try and contact a deity and they don't contact me back or whatever, because I almost feel like a bit of a mad scientist. I'm a mad scientist in the field of magic. And so everything is just data and I don't need to take things too fucking personally. If they don't go correctly, I will try again, and I will tweak and I will change and it will all be joyous. So I tend to find that is a little bit of a difference. But like I said, there are many witches that are not chaotes who don't feel this insecurity. They don't worry about being wrong. They don't worry about failure. But I do find that many do. And then when they start reading about chaos magic, when they start talking about that framework and how to apply it, they free themselves all the way up. They really free themselves up and they feel much more excited about magic with less of the hang-ups, you know? One of the most important kind of like maxims or sayings that is so popular in chaos magic and has been for a very long time is nothing is true, everything is permitted. And that is really based on the idea that there is no one right way. Beliefs are things that you can attach to yourself or bring into your mindset because they fulfill a purpose, because they speak to a certain part of you, because they are right for right now, and then they can be fused together, they can be discarded entirely. You can see them as an interesting part of your scrapbook as a practitioner, or you can really go for gold and be in that paradigm for a long time. Can anybody see this teeny tiny fly? It does not want to go out of the window. It's obviously a chaotic practitioner. It's come to cause me some degree of chaos. Please get out of my face. What was I saying, guys? What was I saying? Jump cut, please. Yeah, so basically with the chaos paradigm, belief is not really sacred, it's more strategic. And we might stay in particular paradigms for the longest of times, but we still see those beliefs largely more as strategic than sacred, but we may feel for the time that we're in them that they are very, very fucking sacred. They are very sacred. And so it's almost like both things can be true in a sense, which is really interesting for me because some of the aspects of my magical practice have changed on the head of a pin.
Move down, move down, move down.
I really am very spontaneous, very, very playful. I'm always doing some kind of experiment. But there are other aspects of my practice, as you guys well know, if you've been here for any length of time, that are really steadfast and have been for a long time. For example, I have a matron goddess that I've worked with since 2011. I'm hoping that I never feel that that paradigm never ends and that it never needs to end. But do I still essentially see it as a paradigm? Do I believe that other paradigms could be just as rich and just as fulfilling for me? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a paradigm princess, and that's really where I fall with it. I do not believe there is one right way. I do not believe in any God over any other. I do not believe that I'm stagnant in my sense of who I am, or that I am nailed to a specific belief. Do I have respect for people that do feel that way and think that way? Absolutely, absolutely. But for me, for my personality, for the way my brain is set up, the chaos framework when it comes to magic really, makes an occultic meal of it for me, I think. Why do I keep mentioning paradigms? Because chaotes are really interested in paradigm shifting, paradigm fusing, paradigm bending. Paradigms are outlooks, and paradigms are kind of like worldviews, basically, They're outlooks. They're just specific ways of seeing things. So you've got an entire framework inside the paradigm. For example, polytheism, hard polytheism is a paradigm. Left-hand path is a paradigm, right? Like all of these different things are paradigms. Traditional Wicca of any specific stripe is a paradigm. Okay, so the idea that you can paradigm shift and that you can be a paradigm tourist is very much the mark of the chaote. Many chaos witches that have been at this for a very long time would have trained themselves to shift paradigms like impressively instantaneously, to shift from like one pantheon to another, one very rich tradition to another, one complete way of seeing the world metaphysically to another way, and that will be in accordance to what is going on with them right now. What are they needing? What needs to come in? What needs to exit stage left? Many people would see this as a dangerous form of spiritual inconsistency. I think chaotes would prefer to see it as spiritual fluidity and spiritual experimentation. Another thing that you're definitely going to want in your toolkit if you want to think more like a chaos practitioner is deconditioning. It's just witnessing that a lot of the stuff that was programmed in when you were growing up, in your family, in the society that you inhabit, and in the collective global situation that you're a part of, those things have gone in, they have like cooked into the cement of who you are. But you can get your pneumatic drill and you can fucking shake that shit and break that shit up and reorder everything. Take all that brickwork up, all the binary thinking, the religious trauma, anything to do with identity that was baked in, anything to do with what it means to be a man, means to be a woman, means to be the race you are or where you were born, like all of that stuff, all of that conditioning, all of that deep condition, you can just like break it all up with your pneumatic drill of deconditioning, and you can replace it with some crazy paving if you want to. You can replace it with anything you like.
There are no rules.
It's really that sense of like, if you want different marble flooring in your psyche, that's what's going to have to happen. You need to look through the timeline of your life, look at all the things that have been put into you, and really think about like what gets to stay. I am the captain of my ship. I am the ruler of my realm, right? So what gets to stay? Because I didn't plant these plants and I didn't put in this brickwork and I didn't choose this paint. So a lot of chaotes are very, very concerned with the notion that a healthy magician, a healthy practitioner, deconditions what was not meant for them, what they did not choose for themselves, and they sort of reorient themselves towards things that are more healthy, more helpful, or just make them, in their mind, a better and more moral class of person. This is really about reclaiming your cognitive freedom, and it's about giving yourself the opportunity to build yourself from a sovereign perspective, knowing that you don't carry all of that baggage around that you were taught in school or that comes from the experiences that you previously had. And this is something that is really deep, I think, about the discussion that often happens between practitioners of chaos magic. Is it's not just about the fun and the silliness and, I'm going to worship a banana for 24 hours and see what happens. My crystal ball is a disco ball and all that shit. It's not just about that, although I love that and it appeals to the artist in me and the Mad Hatter in me. It's not that. It's also this idea that in order to be able to do those things successfully and get magical results from them, you need to have deeply and seriously questioned what you ever were told that magic was. what you were told about the seriousness and the gravity and the solemnity of traditions and these things, right? And I love that. I am non-traditionalist as a rule. That's me, okay? I do find that there are many, many things that I feel very irreverent about. And I guess just in general, when I came out of the room, I was trying to be transgressive. I was like, where's the transgressive shit? Where are the people that are breaking traditions over their knee? Now, it's not to say that I think everybody should do that in every situation. Tradition is not valuable and tradition is not important. I do think it's really important, for example, cultural ancestral traditions that have been kept alive through many, many fucking insidious strains of colonialism, oppression, murder, etc. I think those things are heftily important, right? I'm only talking about in my personal practice, what I want to do for me. I'm transgressive and I'm irreverent and I do like breaking tradition over my knee. And that's got a lot to do with who I am as a person, where I've been in my life, what's happened to me and my family, etc. So for Chaote, it is really function over faith, right? And as you can imagine, this sometimes does ruffle some feathers in other areas of the magical community. I think in order to ask yourself the question, what would my magic be? What would my witchcraft be if I took out everything that I had learned or been taught or been told I should do magically or spiritually? In order to ask yourself that question, you've got to ask yourself the deeper questions like, who would I be or what would I choose to be if I hadn't been programmed with these things, if I hadn't been taught my limitations at such a young age, if I hadn't been raised in this political climate? And can I find possibilities for myself outside of what has been sewn into my tapestry before I got a fucking chance to decide for myself? So deconditioning is a really big part of the Chaote mindset. So there we are. Chaotes are very DIY, very fly by the seat of your pants, very interested in experiencing lots of different things, you know, function over faith, all of that kind of stuff. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. Decondition, baby. Do it for your life. Do it for the quality of your life. Trade what is true for what is useful. Instead of moralizing your magic, just accept the awareness of the consequences of what you are doing and be responsible to that end. Question your spiritual programming and embrace paradox. So my darlings, go forth, create your very, very impermanent and absurd altars. Create God forms and thought forms that come from your own mind, that satisfy parts of you that nobody else on this planet would ever understand. Choose one of your favorite comic books to be your sacred text. Do something absolutely silly. Worship the family dog for a week. See where that gets you. Go crazy. Or, you know, you could just really dive headfirst, very dedicatedly into a paradigm. Read every single book, read every single scrap of history, get into debates about it, do a podcast about it, teach it for years, and then fuck it off, let it go, because it was only a paradigm and now you're onto another wave. Powerful, powerful stuff, very heady, not for everyone. Get at me in the comments down below and let me know what you thought of this video. If you would like to work with me talking about your own witchcraft journey, you can grab a witchy brainstorming session. I do single sessions and I also do packages of 3 or 6. It is an excellent investment to get you where you want to go magically and have some more of these juicy, fizzy as fuck conversations with me, your host, Kellyanne Mad Dog Maddox. If you are watching this at the time of upload, by the way, I am going to be going live soon to celebrate finally hitting 60k subscribers on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to be doing 1-card readings for free. Okay, so get over to the lives tab and click the notification button. I am going live. I think is it August 9th, Saturday, August 9th at 8:30 p.m. UK time. Come along, get involved. I am very excited about it. I will see you there. Much love, my darlings. Until next time, blessed be. Mwah.